Sometimes you're entrenched in your daily life, in the hectic flow, from the rush to get ready for work, from the news headlines that bombard your eyes and your soul, the traffic jam of existence filled with honks and blares, the heat of life piling up on you, the exhaust of simple chores intermingling with the news of wars and floods and fires. And your sense and frame of mind is locked in a drumbeat, but then you're suddenly thrown into paradise. A storyteller's paradise. A cosmic egg of human experience, of beauty and joy. You somehow step off the treadmill of existence, of daily life, of your own mind and senses, and you hover in an adjacent dimension. Your mind slows down, stops worrying. Your heart beats slower, but fuller. And you come to a rest, and your eyes, your mind's eyes, opens to the brilliance of this world, this universe, this humanity. Sometimes you are lucky, and your vacation lifts you off the drumbeat. This was how Croatia was for me. The trip encapsulated the ethos I want to capture in my writing. When I said yes to my brother about joining his family on a trip to Croatia, I just thought it would be a straightforward trip to Europe. Castles, gelato, some statues, and souvenir shops. Yet from the moment we drove along the coastline to our hotel, with the bright green of June glowing against the blue of the summer sea, to the last cab ride, with the chattering taxi driver telling me about his favorite restaurant I must try when I return to Dubrovnik, the trip was otherworldly. Somehow I was in this world, but also hovering at the gates of an adjacent realm, a realm where every instance of life blossomed more brightly, like a life diluted down to a naked core, joyfully shouting its story. It's as if the particles of the universe expanded, and therefore your mind expands as well, becomes a receptacle for new ideas, new ways of thinking, new approaches to your writing, to your art, to your creativity. Inspiration abounds. I was almost eager to come home so I could encapsulate that feeling in my writing and paint everything I saw. It was still the same as all vacations. What should we see today? Should we walk into this shop? Where should we eat? What should we eat? Gelato now or gelato later? Is there a bathroom nearby? But in the June sun, the river of senses slowed and magnified. Whether walking on a 1,000-year-old wall that had fended off invaders or succumbed to them, welcomed new trade with luxuries and exotics from far-off unimaginable lands that had seen the best and worst of humanity, or taking a break in an alley, under an umbrella, drinking an iced latte and people watching. Whether wandering through a fort in a war museum that shared the stories of a country falling at the seams, of human hatred intensified, of women losing sons and husbands and brothers in a war, of children scavenging for water, or looking out of this same fort onto a gorgeous, brilliant landscape of sea and stone and land and foliage, of buildings that sang the praises of human ingenuity and beauty. Whether winding up a steep, narrow mountain path and seeing cascading mountains, or holding your hand out to a kitten playing with a cigarette butt, life shone, and with it ideas flowed easily. In this expanse of space, in a quiet moment, in the car sitting in between my two nephews, both of whom were reading, I drew a cat on my phone and called him Mr. Cat. And while sailing through this heavenly garden of ideas, my mind immediately formed a story around him. He's an American cat from Louisiana who visits Croatia after a personal loss. The story sprung out naturally, inspired by the landscape and people. Even the friendly border patrol man gave birth to a character in my book, and I wanted to rush home and draw him. We saw bits of paradise dropped onto this earth, and yet knew this paradise was of this earth. We walked through rushing waterfalls and pools of blue and green, awed at little snails propped up on tree trunks, and watched the water whirl and jostle in the crevices of the rocky shore, one little bowl holding an ecosystem of its own. Creatures that spent their whole lives in one spot, content and still blossoming with life. We heard the songs of nature and the songs of humans. We sat for a few moments, or many moments, appreciating the opportunity to be alive, despite how terribly hard it can be sometimes. On my last night, after my family had left already that morning, I sat on the pier and watched some children swim in the cool darkness. A black poodle was running around on its own, trotting on tiny feet, looking for its owner. The moonlight glittered in the deep inky blue of the Adriatic Sea. There was chatter and murmur and song all around me. I sat there and looked onto the sea and saw the Illyrians, the Romans, the Slavics, the Ottomans, the Venetians, invading, exploring, trading, inquiring, demanding on this coast into this land, bringing in waves of new people, building layer upon layer of history and culture, and culminating into this instant, this tiny moment in time, with me sitting on this pier with these specific individuals and the tiny black dog. But the instant is fluid, and the instants pass like a river, and the area, like all areas, like all seas and mountains and cities and peoples, will change for time immemorial, and every part of that change is present and carried within every human story, in every smile or tear, in every joy and every anger, in every whisper and every shout, in every birth and every death. That is to say, the beauty and fabric of Dubrovnik, of Palmerston, of Stone, of Split, of Zadar, is the beauty and fabric of all the world, in all its spaces and all its forms. And that is my hope for my writing. Unique, but also universal. Because what are we but iterations of each other's stories?